Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The big stories that we're tracking for you this evening. Many feared dead after an explosion outside the Red Fort metro station in the capital. Police confirm that people have been injured and multiple vehicles damaged. Cause of the explosion is yet to be ascertained. Stocks rally across the world as the US Senate clears a major hurdle, paving the way to end the government shutdown. But the deal does not address demands on healthcare made by the Democrats. At 41 days, the current shutdown is the longest in US history.
3, 2, 1.
Lenskart goes public after listing at a 2% discount. Shares recover sharply from the intraday lows, ending the first day on Dalal Street above the issue price of 402 rupees.
So in the days and months to come, you will see a series of reform measures relating to ease of doing business.
Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister and former RBI Governor Shaktikanta hints at more reforms, promises a series of measures to boost the ease of doing business in the coming days. That's an exclusive.
अभी जो आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देख रहे हैं ये केवल ट्रेलर है, असली पिक्चर अभी बाकी है.
With civic body elections looming in Mumbai and Maharashtra, Chief Minister Fadnavis promises to double down on infrastructure plans to build a third airport for Mumbai at Vadvan port, which will be India's first offshore airport. That's another exclusive. Online used car trading platform CarTrade, all set to acquire rival CarDekho. Sources say deal talks are in advanced stages. CarDekho's last valuation was over $1 billion in 2021. Varun Berry resigns as Vice Chairman and MD of Britannia with 4 years left in his tenure. Rakshit Hargave will take over as MD and CEO from the 15th of December. The company's CFO, Natarajan Venkatraman, named the interim CEO. Vodafone Idea's losses narrow in Q2 to the lowest levels in nearly 5 years, but losses remain elevated at more than 5,500 crore rupees. Revenue rises over 1%. Margins remain largely steady, just under 42%. The Supreme Court agrees to hear a petition on the use and regulation of artificial intelligence. The government has proposed to amend the current laws to ensure labelling of AI-generated content. IT Secretary Krishnan says there is no need for a separate law as of now, and the focus is on leaving room for innovation. Delhi's air quality hovers in the very poor category despite a marginal improvement over the weekend. The Delhi police cracks down on protesters, including children, on Sunday after they gathered at India Gate demanding urgent action. Loudspeakers have fallen silent in Bihar. 122 assembly seats will vote in the second and final phase tomorrow. Votes will be counted on Friday. Rich countries have lost the enthusiasm to combat climate change, says the head of COP30 climate summit, which kicks off in Brazil today. Policymakers from 194 countries set to attend. Dozens of state and local leaders in the US will attend the summit, even as President Trump decides to stay away. Well, the big story breaking at this hour, many people are feared dead after an explosion outside Delhi's Red Fort metro station in the capital. Multiple vehicles are damaged after a blast in a car. The cause of the explosion is yet to be ascertained. The Delhi police say they received a call about an explosion at 6:55 p.m. The Delhi police PRO has confirmed that people have been injured and several cars have been damaged, but the PRO did not reveal the scale and nature of those injuries. Visuals show multiple cars burnt and mangled in the area. The Delhi police has cordoned off the area and the injured have been rushed to nearby hospitals. Close to 20 fire engines have been dispatched to the scene for cooling operations. What we are now given to understand is that there are casualties feared. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with the latest. Parikshit, what do you have for us in terms of what happened at that Red Fort metro station where the blast took place, and whether we do now have a confirmation on casualties?
Well, there was an explosion in a car that was parked outside the gate number 1 of the Red Fort metro station. As a result, there were 7 to 8 vehicles nearby which have been damaged, and some of them quite badly. Now, as a result of the incident, we're told by the Delhi police PRO that at least 8 people have been killed. There could be several others injured. We are seeing different reports that they've been taken to the nearby hospitals in central Delhi. Now, as far as the cause of the blast is concerned, there were earlier some reports of this being a CNG explosion, but the police have said nothing to that effect. They're saying that the cause of the blast is being investigated right now. And as a result of this investigation, the police has started calling all the owners of the different cars that were parked in that area, the ones that had been damaged, to to just find out more about the incident, get to the bottom of this matter. So right now, Delhi police local teams from the local police station, the special teams from the anti-terror squad, from the crime branch, all of them are there at the scene of crime, at the scene of the incident to understand what exactly has happened. The police are not giving any color to this incident. They're not saying whether this is an explosion because of some problem in the car or for any other untoward reason. We'll have to wait for the police to give clarity on that front. But clearly, this has become a big investigation right now. There are 6 to 7 fire tenders which have also reached the spot to douse the fire and to make sure that there is no other fire in any other place. So what the police will be doing right now is doing a thorough check of the area to see if there is any kind of material lying nearby, if there is any kind of explosive lying nearby. Now, these are just routine checks that would happen in these circumstances. We're not coming to any conclusion. We're expecting a detailed statement from the police in about 15 to 20 minutes.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. So an explosion there at Delhi's Red Fort metro station. Outside the Delhi Red Fort metro station, several cars have been damaged. There are reports of casualties as well. We are, of course, waiting, as Parikshit was pointing out, for an official statement from the Delhi police on what transpired and what the investigation has been able to ascertain so far. Eyewitness accounts recounting what they saw at the time of the explosion. Take a look.
वहाँ पर इतना ज़ोरदार धमाका हुआ है, वहाँ पर इतनी ज़ोरदार तेज़ आवाज़ आई कि एकदम से शॉक्ड हो गए। फिर मेरे पास में फ़ोन्स भी आए काफ़ी सारे। हमने कहा क्या हुआ, हमने कहा धमाका हुआ है। उसके बाद हमने दूर से आके देखा, हमने दूर से ही हम क्योंकि करीब में जा नहीं सकते थे। फिर यहाँ पे साइड में हमने देखा इंसान का हाथ पड़ा हुआ, पूरा फटा हुआ। फिर आगे उस साइड देखा तो फेफड़ा पड़ा हुआ इंसान का। फिर इतना ये आदमी सोच भी नहीं सकता कि एकदम से हुआ तो क्या हुआ इंसान।
गाड़ी इको बताई जा रही है, फिर क्या पता है गाड़ी?
वहाँ पे होंडाई का वो पड़ा हुआ है पूरा, उसके साथ में फेफड़ा आगे
सामने उस तरफ
जी।
अच्छा,
बहुत सारी काफ़ी सारी गाड़ियाँ हैं।
हम ये देखे, लपट देखा, अपने छत से देखा, तभी मैं नीचे उतर के आया कि जरा देखूँ कहाँ है क्या। और तो पता नहीं
किसी तरह की कोई आवाज़ आपने सुनी?
बहुत जोर आवाज़ आई, बिल्डिंग खिड़की हिल गई, खिड़की हिल गई।
उठाओ फिर गिराओ, होता है धरती फटने वाला है, इतनी तेज धमाका हुई है। ठीक है, तो मैं दुकान छोड़ करके एकदम से भागा। मेरे साथ ही बहुत सारी पब्लिक भागी, एक पे एक पब्लिक गिर रही थी। उस टाइम ऐसा लग रहा था कि हम कुछ पल में, अब दूसरा धमाका हुआ था, हम मरने वाले हैं। ऐसा लग रहा कि हम बचने का चांस, ऐसा लग रहा कि मौत को मुँह से देख रहे हैं, इस तरह से नज़ारा था। तो मैं भाग करके साइकिल मार्केट में गया, वहाँ जा करके मैं एक कोल्ड ड्रिंक लिया। 2 बंदे को ने मेरे पे अच्छे से काबू किया, मेरे को समझाया कि हो जाता तो फिर मेरे को रिलैक्स मिला।
A breakthrough in the US Senate has sparked hopes that the government shutdown could come to an end. Stock markets rallying across large parts of Asia and Europe. South Korean Kospi rallied over 3%. Shares in Japan and Hong Kong also up, and the CAC up by about 1.5% almost. Wall Street is also buoyant after a trek-fueled sell-off in the last few days. The US Senate has passed the first stage of a deal that could put an end to the longest-running government shutdown, which has entered day 41. At least 8 Democrats backed the agreement proposed by the Republicans, but this deal does not address demands on health care made by the Democrats. The bill will now proceed to the House of Representatives for approval before being sent to President Trump for his signature. The agreement proposed by the Republicans will fund some parts of the federal government, including food aid, veterans programs, and the legislative branch, among others, and extend the federal funding until the 30th of January.
So there was no vote that we were going to get on the Affordable Care Act, premium tax credits. We have a guaranteed vote by a guaranteed date on a bill that we will write. Not that the Republicans will write, although I do think it's important for us to engage with them, because we need a bipartisan bill that we know is going to get enacted to provide the relief that Americans need. And I think there's a commitment on the part of many of our colleagues to do that.
41 days on, a breakthrough possible as far as the US government shutdown is concerned. Meanwhile, the Indian markets underperformed the global peers despite snapping the 3-day losing streak. Dalal Street did manage to clock just marginal gains today. The Sensex up 300 points, 82 on the Nifty. The Nifty Bank up 60 and the Nifty Mid-Cap Index closing almost 300 points higher. So that's the story as far as our markets are concerned. Slight positive bias. But the big story from the markets, eyewear company Lenskart listing at a 2% discount to the IPO price, but the shares recovered sharply from their intraday lows to end the first day on Dalal Street above the issue price of 402 rupees. The issue was subscribed 28 times during its IPO stage on the back of strong demand from retail and institutional investors. Mangalam standing by with more on Lenskart's Dalal Street debut, perhaps one of the most talked about IPOs in the recent past, Mangalam.
It was an interesting day for trade, day one for Lenskart. You know, the question always, a good business, but at what price? And opened understandably slightly softer because of the little value left on the table, but thereafter, because of the inherent strength of the business, there were some buyers. But remember, this is day one of an issue where only 15% of the equity was allowed to be traded, as against 85%, which is locked in for trade opens over the next months or so. But be that as it may, you know, can't take away from the fact that there was strong demand for the IPO, 28 times subscription, and the issue was overall subscribed by more than 40 times by the by the QIPs and 18 times by the HNIs. Remember, it is a company that we all know of, sells and manufactures eyewear across, sells in across 2150 stores in India, and 40% of its revenue is coming from abroad as well. At the same time, the underlying total addressable market, as per them, in India is 80,000 crores, likely to be about 1,50,000 crores over the next 5 years. International as well, 1,60,000 crores, likely to turn into 2,11,000 crores. In India, they are 2.5 times larger than the other nearest national player, and the organized sector is projected to grow nearly 60% faster than unorganized as well. But then again, the question, at what price? Because the first quarter, the revenues were close to 2,000 crores with 17.5% margins and a net profit of 61 times. The company, which was offered at 10.8 times trailing sales and 234 times trailing price to earnings, now even if you analyze the first quarter numbers, would be well over 200 times 1 year forward earnings. So let's see where it goes from here on.
Yes, we will have to see where it goes from here. But, all of that talk about tepid listing and what we could possibly see on the listing day, at least on listing day itself, it wasn't a bad opening for Lenskart. Staying with IPOs, Pine Labs IPO subscription touching 54% at the end of the second day of bidding. The portion reserved for retail investors booked 87%. QIB portion saw 64% subscription. The company's 3,900 crore rupee IPO comprises a fresh issue of 2,000 crores and an offer for sale component of over 8 crore shares. More IPOs. PhysicsWallah's IPO opens tomorrow. Global investment firm Think Investments invested around 136 crore rupees in the unicorn PhysicsWallah during the pre-IPO funding round. As part of the transaction, Think Investments picked up over 1 crore equity shares from 14 employees of the edtech firm. This accounts for about 0.37% stake in the company. And here's another CNBC TV 18 exclusive tonight. CarTrade Tech is said to be in final stages of talks to acquire rival CarDekho. Rachna standing by with more. Rachna, a deal in the making in the used car space?
Definitely. At least that's what my colleague Vivek and I have gathered from our sources, that CarTrade Tech is in advanced stages to acquire CarDekho. And this move could be a defining, consolidating move in India's digital auto space. The deal, sources say, will be structured as a mix of cash and stock, and the intent is to create country's largest digital auto platform, bringing together new and used car marketplaces, financing and insurance all under one umbrella. Now, CarDekho was last valued at $1.2 billion back in 2021 when it raised funds from investors like Sequoia and Leapfrog. In the financial year 2024, the CarDekho group reported revenues of over 2,000 crore rupees and a standalone profit of 37 crore rupees. The financials for FY25 are not made public. While CarDekho has declined to comment on the development, CarTrade has not yet responded to CNBC TV 18's queries that we had sent earlier in the day. But if this deal goes through, it will reshape India's online marketplace, combining two of the biggest homegrown platforms and potentially setting the stage for a stronger play against global and other local competitors in the digital mobility ecosystem. Back to you.
All right. Many thanks, Rachna, for joining us. The big corporate story tonight, Varun Berry has resigned as Vice Chairman and MD of Britannia with 4 years left in his tenure. Shilpa joins us now with more. Shilpa, take us to the company's succession plan. We've just seen Rakshit Hargave move from Birla Opus to Britannia. But, not even serving his notice period, even though that's what he offered to do, Varun Berry, in his letter.
Well, it is a surprise move that Varun Berry has resigned as the Executive Vice Chairman, Managing Director and CEO of Britannia. Now, the board has approved a waiver of his notice period and he will be relieved with effect from the close of business hours of today, which is the 10th of November. Now, this is despite the fact that Berry had offered to serve his notice period as per his contract in the resignation letter that he had written to Mr. Nusliwadia. Now, meanwhile, the board has appointed Rakshit Hargave as the CEO and now also the MD of Britannia with effect from the 15th of December. Remember, Britannia had announced Rakshit Hargave's appointment as CEO and Executive Director on the 5th of November, and he joins the company from Birla Opus. Now, talking about Varun Berry had joined Britannia as COO in 2013, and he took over as the Managing Director in 2014. And during his tenure, Britannia's stock rose more than 24 times, and its revenues grew nearly tenfold, and it cemented its position as India's leading biscuit maker. And he's credited for a lot of innovation and consistent volume growth. And if you remember, under his leadership, Britannia also diversified its portfolio beyond just biscuits. It successfully launched a whole variety of products and new categories such as wafers, croissants, milkshakes, cheese, with a lot of new brand launches as well. Now, till Rakshit joins Britannia as on the 15th of December, Britannia's CFO Natarajan Venkatraman will take charge as the interim CEO with immediate effect, but the MD position that will remain vacant till Rakshit joins on the 15th of December. And this is still ahead of notice because Varun Berry's term was set to actually end on the 31st of March 2029. So he has resigned well before, and till Rakshit joins on the 15th of December, the CFO will take over as the CEO, but the MD post will remain vacant. Back to you.
Over a decade at the helm there of Britannia, Varun Berry exits, Rakshit Hargave to take over. President Donald Trump defended his tariff policy yet again over the weekend. He claimed that the levies made America the richest country in the world, called the people criticizing tariffs, I quote, as fools. Trump promised that Americans will receive dividends of $2,000 each from the tariff revenue soon. Remember, last week, the US Supreme Court had questioned the legality of the tariffs while hearing a case. In August this year, a federal appeals court had ruled that President Trump overstepped his authority with the imposition of tariffs. And staying with tariffs, the 50% US tariffs on India have made tyre exports unsustainable, says Raghupati Singhania of JK Tyre. Speaking exclusively to Parikshit Luthra, Singhania said that unless the trade deal offers tariffs lower than other Asian nations, Indian tyre companies will have to find new export markets.
If it is in 50% range, I don't think we are going to make it, because a US importer, why will he import a product or buy a product 50% or let's say 40% higher than somebody else when the performance are similar? I mean, you can always claim a particular brand is better also. So why should anybody do it? So we have, as a industry, as a company, formed a strategy, alternate strategy. Couple of things. We are now catering to the US market more through our Mexican operations. From India, we are looking to alternate markets. We are developing Europe. There is a balance created, equilibrium created in the troubled waters when such things happen. So in a course of a year or so, I think things will settle down.
Well, that's JK Tyre's Raghupati Singhania on the impact of the 50% UF tariffs in Earnings Corner. Vodafone Idea's losses narrowing in the second quarter to the lowest level that we've seen in nearly 5 years. In March 2021, the company had posted losses of over 7,000 crores, and this widened to more than 8,700 crore rupees by September of 2023. Since then, losses have been narrowing. It is now down to 5,500 crore rupees. Revenue in Q2 rose over 1%. Margins remained largely steady, just under 42%. So Vodafone Idea narrowing its losses. And staying with earnings, Bajaj Finance Q2 numbers in line with estimates. Net profit rose nearly 22%. Net interest income also rose 22% on an annual basis. However, asset quality has worsened on a sequential basis. Shares of WeWork India gained after the company posted a stable Q2. Revenues rose 22%, EBITDA jumped 26% on an annual basis. Revenue growth was driven by robust enterprise demand and high occupancy across its national portfolio. Profit before tax stood at 6.2 crore rupees compared to a net loss of 31 crores in the same period last year. India's most influential thought leaders converged in Mumbai on Friday for the CNBC TV 18 Global Leadership Summit. We spoke to 50-odd stalwarts across sectors from sports to business to policy making to decode how the India advantage can reap rich dividends. Maharashtra's Chief Minister Fadnavis was one of our speakers. With civic body elections looming in Mumbai and in Maharashtra, Fadnavis promised to double down on infrastructure, taking a cue from the hit Shah Rukh Khan movie Om Shanti Om. Fadnavis said the work done so far was only a trailer and picture abhi baaki hai.
अभी जो आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देख रहे हैं ये केवल ट्रेलर है, असली पिक्चर अभी बाकी है. आप जब ये वर्ली बांद्रा सी लिंक से बांद्रा में आते हैं तो अभी हम लोगों का एक प्लान चल रहा है कि हम बांद्रा से सीधा एक टनल ये बीकेसी में लाएंगे और बीकेसी से सीधा उस टनल को हम एयरपोर्ट ले जाएंगे. तो जिसमें आपको उसके बाद ये जो बीकेसी का जो कंजेशन है और वेस्टर्न एक्सप्रेसवे का जो कंजेशन है वो ख़त्म हो जाएगा. ये जिस दिन तैयार होगा उस दिन वाडवण पोर्ट ये दुनिया के पहले 10 पोर्ट में होगा और अगले 30 साल 40 साल महाराष्ट्र और देश की अर्थव्यवस्था को और जो एक प्रकार से उसकी अगुवाई ये वाडवण पोर्ट करेगा. ऑलमोस्ट एवरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट विल बी कनेक्टेड विद अ सुपर एक्सप्रेसवे विद द वाडवण पोर्ट. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो एक ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन में हम लोग एक भूमिका निभाना चाहते हैं उसके लिए वाडवण पोर्ट और जो हमारे हाईवेज ये जो इकोसिस्टम हम तैयार कर रहे हैं ये इकोसिस्टम पूरे तरीके से इसको बदल देगी.
Well, that's the Maharashtra Chief Minister, and our Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister and former RBI Governor Shaktikanta was honoured for his contribution to the Indian economy at the CNBC TV 18 Global Leadership Summit. During his acceptance speech, Das hinted at more reforms from the government in the coming days. Take a look.
Next-gen GST reforms which were undertaken recently. The Prime Minister talked about it on 15th of August from Red Fort, and within 5 weeks, on 22nd of December, the next-gen GST reforms were implemented with the cooperation of all the states. Several reforms this year have been undertaken not only in GST but also in non-financial sector deregulation, for which a high-level committee has been appointed. So in the days and months to come, you will see a series of reform measures relating to ease of doing business, relating to making Indian economy more competitive. All these measures will follow.
Well, that's Shaktikanta Das. From one exclusive to another, a national manufacturing mission is likely to be rolled out by the end of this month, says the CEO of the Niti Aayog. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, he also said that a task force under Cabinet Secretary is working on cutting red tape to attract more foreign direct investment. Take a look.
Biggest announcement in the last budget, which is the National Manufacturing Mission, and I'm hopeful that by the end of November, the mission will be up and running. The NMM is going to transform India's manufacturing landscape. We must understand that the manufacturing space is being vacated by many countries. China is vacating a lot of manufacturing space. There are other countries who are filling it in. So I think there's a huge potential. And what is the potential arising out of? It's arising out of our demography. We have a 1 billion strong workforce. That is the biggest workforce in the world. So if you look at areas where we have inherent strengths, and we are already globally strong, automobile certainly is one of them, pharma is going to be the other. On the labor-intensive side, textiles and garments is the other.
Well, that is the Niti Aayog CEO. Next up, Delhi's air quality hovers in the very poor category despite a marginal improvement over the weekend. More details when we return. And catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Do subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories and special shows like The Editor's Playbook and more. While you're watching India Business Hour, the loudspeakers have fallen silent in Bihar ahead of the second and final phase of the election tomorrow. 122 assembly seats will go to the polls and the votes will be counted on Friday. The first phase recorded a voter turnout of 65%. In the 2020 polls, the BJP won 42 out of the 122 seats, the JDU won 20 seats, RJD won 33 seats and the Congress clinched 11 seats. If you are a Delhi resident, chances are that you would want the right to breathe to be enshrined as a fundamental right in the Indian Constitution. And why not? Delhi currently shares the ignominy of ranking constantly as the world's most polluted capital city. The air quality in the metropolis continued to remain in the very poor category, despite a slight improvement over the weekend. Several areas, including Pusa, RK Puram, Chandni Chowk, Shadipur, Punjabi Bagh and Munkar, recorded AQI levels above the 300 mark. The government is yet to implement GRAP-3, the next stage of its measures to bring down pollution levels. A subcommittee of the Commission for Air Quality Management has concluded that Stage 3 restriction was unnecessary for now. Meanwhile, if the air quality was not enough, protesters had to face police barricades last evening for urging the government's intervention. They gathered at India Gate demanding urgent government action against the air emergency. Even children who were accompanied by parents were not spared. The police claimed that only those blocking traffic were detained and later released.
Delhi NCR's air quality continues to remain in the very poor category. CAQM met last evening and did not decide to go ahead with GRAP-3, rather continued with GRAP-2 phase, considering that the AQI levels on an average did not cross 400. It usually shows the AQI readings, but today it is showing only the weather report. That was captured at Safdarjung station. Currently, the AQI, the air quality is at 345. It says very poor. Over the last 3 days, this is today's average of Delhi, 345, which is under very poor category. And over the last 3 days, yesterday it was 370, day before, yesterday was 361, and the day before that, that is 7th of November, it was 322. I'm outside the Indian National Science Academy. This is the air quality monitoring station. And if you see the PM 2.5 readings, which will be displayed shortly, they are above 187 units. And any reading above 40 units, see, now the PM 2.5 reading is at 197 units, and any reading above 40 units is considered to be harmful for human lungs. As per CAQM, we have not triggered an AQI of 400, and still we are in very poor category and not the severe category. Thus, only GRAP-2 guidelines are being followed currently.
Well, that's the latest from Delhi. Meanwhile, in international headlines, Hamas has handed over the remains of an Israeli soldier who was killed in Gaza a decade ago. The release of his body was part of the ceasefire agreement signed in October. Meanwhile, US presidential advisor Jared Kushner met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to take stock of the situation in Gaza. As per the Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 2 people were killed in Israeli strikes in the last 24 hours. From one war-torn region to another, the Russian Ministry of Defense said its forces have captured a Ukrainian settlement in the southeastern part of the country. Russia has also attacked key power and energy infrastructure in Ukraine, with over 1 lakh people left without water or electricity. At least 11 people were killed after a boat carrying undocumented migrants from Malaysia sank near the Thailand-Malaysia maritime border. 13 people have been rescued so far, while hundreds are still missing. According to Malaysian officials, the vessel was carrying around 300 people, mostly Rohingya refugees. A powerful tornado accompanied by strong winds and heavy rains has torn through southern Brazil, leaving 6 people dead and hundreds injured. The town of Rio Bonito do Iguacu was the hardest hit, with more than half of its urban area suffering roof collapses and widespread structural damage. Authorities say 437 people have been treated for injuries, while around 1,000 residents have been displaced. Tornado hit Brazil as the venue of the annual climate summit. The world's biggest climate summit, COP30, has kicked off in the country. The head of COP30 summit has said that rich countries have lost the enthusiasm to combat climate change. Policymakers from 194 countries will attend the conference. Dozens of state and local leaders in the US will attend the summit, even after President Trump decided to stay away. It is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. We're back in a moment.